A. Notes. This piece is a note about notes. This episode, which is a preface, was composed and produced by Daniel Hagen, the Messiah. Definitions by Merriam-Webster's Dictionary. A note is a notice. Notice contains the word note. The dictionary defines a note in definition 1a to mean to notice or observe with care, and defines note in definition 2b to mean indicate, show. So, a note is a notice in the sense that it causes one to take note or to notice something. Note may mean to make special mention of or remark on, and also could mean to record or preserve in writing. In addition, note also could mean tone. A tone is a sound of definite pitch and vibration. Because a tone is a sound of definite pitch and vibration, note can also mean melody, which is a song. A song is something that is sung but can more generally refer simply to a piece of music. A piece of music is a musical work. A melody or song is what the notes that represent tones represents. My piece uses the example tone A exclusively, which is why it is titled A. Notes. All tones included in this composition are either A4 at 440 Hz or an A5, which is 220 Hz, and is the A an octave below A4 440 Hz. These two A's are the highest and lowest notes respectively of the basic line of the hang drum. The basic line excludes the outliers, which are C5 and D3, because they are connected by skip and leap instead of being connected by step. The beat is like the heartbeat of the song and is seen as the fundamental basic underlying rhythmic structure upon which all other layers are built. Beat can also mean pulse, pulsate, pulsation, throb, tick, flap, which is to strike the air. A beat can also mean one swing of the pendulum or balance of a timepiece. Tempo is the speed of the beat of a piece of music and therefore the speed of the piece of music. This mark indicates the tempo. Equals 60. This mark can also be written as quarter note equals 60. It is written like this. Musical note equals number. The speed of the piece of music is adjusted by indicating the speed the beat is going in the tempo marking. The tempo marking has three parts. First part is a picture of a musical note. Then an equals sign in the middle. And lastly, after the equals sign, there is a number. It first shows which note gets the beat, and then shows an equals sign, followed by a number, that number indicating how many of the depicted notes there are in a minute, which is referred to as the beats per minute, or BPM for short. 60 means 60 BPM, which can also be written as 60 BPM, which stands for the beats per minute, which is the number of beats that are in a minute and has similarities to mph, which are miles per hour, in that they are counting the number of something within a given frame of time. The beat is like the heartbeat of the song, and is seen as the fundamental basic underlying rhythmic structure upon which all other layers are built. A beat can also mean one swing of the pendulum or balance of a timepiece. Beat can also mean pulse, pulsate, pulsation, throb, tick, flap, which is to strike the air. A beat is one strike. A beat can mean a moment. The beat is the part of a piece of music that is the base over which other musical layers form. The beat is the pronounced rhythm that is the characteristic driving force in some types of music. The beat is a metrical or rhythmic stress in poetry or music, or the rhythmic effect of these stresses. A beat can mean the tempo indicated to a musical performer or machine. The tempo is the speed a piece of music is going. 60 means 60 BPM, which can also be written as 60 BPM. Which stands for the beats per minute, which is the number of beats that are in a minute, and has similarities to mph, which are miles per hour. in that they are counting the number of something within a given frame of time. Heart rate is typically measured in beats per minute, BPM. This indicates the number of times the heart beats in a 1-minute period. For example, a heart rate of 70 BPM means the heart beats 70 times in 1 minute. The tempo marking doesn't have to be a depiction of a note followed by an equals sign and then ending with a number. Instead, the tempo could be a descriptive word or phrase. It is tradition to use the Italian descriptive like allegro, presto, and adagio, and largo, although that is not necessary, and you can use whatever descriptive wording you want to. In any language, keeping in mind that the note to the performer will only be helpful to that performer if that performer can understand it. Allegro means lively. Presto means fast. As in prestidigitation, which means fast fingers or quick fingers. Adagio means slow. As a musical term, adagio means slowly or at ease. Largo is the Spanish word for long, but it can also mean tall, length, or Latin refers. It comes from the Italian word of the same spelling, which most often means wide or broad, which are achieved by increasing the length of the width, and therefore are longer widths, making the broader lines in fact longer, and would then therefore also mean long in Italian, but instead in reference to the width which becomes lengthened, which is longer. The tempo may be indicated by a conductor, a soloist, by a musical score, or other ways. The beat is the part of a piece of music that is the base over which other musical layers form. The beat is a metrical or rhythmic stress in poetry or music, or the rhythmic effect of these stresses. The beat is the pronounced rhythm that is the characteristic driving force in some types of music. In rap music, the beat is the part of a rap song that is the base over which rap lyrics are added, and that is usually composed using special software. In this sense, a beat means the specific rhythm that the percussion or other similar instruments are playing, and not just the underlying meter which the groupings of stress and unstressed notes. A beat is one strike. A beat may mean a single stroke or blow, especially in a series. To beat is to strike repeatedly. Beat is to walk on, tread. Beat is to strike directly against, forcefully and repeatedly, dash against. Beat is to become forcefully propelled forward, dash. To beat is to drive or force by blows. To beat is to glare or strike with oppressive intensity. Beat can also mean pulse, pulsate, pulsation, throb, tick, flap, which is to strike the air. A beat can also mean one swing of the pendulum or balance of a timepiece. To beat is to mix by stirring, whip. Beat is to strike repeatedly in order to produce music or a signal. To beat is to pound into a powder, paste, or pulp. To beat is to make by repeated treading or driving over. To beat is to lodge or dislodge by repeated striking. To beat is to shape by beating. Especially, to flatten thin by blows. To beat is to cause to strike or flap repeatedly. To beat is to strike the air, flap. To beat is to sound or express. Especially, to sound or express by drumbeat. Beat can also mean to prevail. Also, surpass. Beat can mean to overcome, to defeat. Beat means exhaust, fatigue. Beat can also mean to leave dispirited, irresolute, or hopeless. To beat is to swindle, which is to cheat. Beat is to circumvent. A beat can also mean a regularly traversed round. A beat can mean a moment. Beat is to come or arrive before. Beat is to act ahead. Beat is to outmaneuver and get free. Beat is to score against. Beat is to progress. Beat is to sail windward by a series of zigzag movements. The 5 basic directions of music are a code, and a code is instructions, that is a system of signals or symbols for communication that tells a performer how to operate. An operate is to perform a particular operation, which is a method or manner of functioning. In this case, that operation is the performance of music. So, the 5 basic directions of music is a code. The 5 basic directions of music are: 1. Silent, 2. Soft, and 3. Loud, along with 4. Low, and 5. High. The 5 basic directions of music are comparable in significance to the cardinal directions. The 4 cardinal directions are north, south, west, and east, which are the 4 main points of a compass. These 4 main points form the north and south line, which is the direction north, and its opposite direction south, as well as the perpendicular line west-east, which is the direction west, and its opposite direction east, which crosses usually the middle of the north-south line. These lines are comparable to the silent-loud line and the low-high line of the 5 basic directions of music. The silent-loud line, which is the volume line, and the low-high line, which is the pitch line of the 5 basic directions of music, are your compass rose of music and represent 2 spectrums, which are a continuous sequence or range, and in the case of the pitch line, which is specifically the range of frequencies of sound waves, which is the definition of what spectrum means. Compass rose. The symbol on a map that shows the cardinal and intermediate directions is called a compass rose. These directions form a basis for all other directions and are used for navigation, map reading, and orientation. They are often represented by their initials, N, S, W, and E. The initial, N, represents the direction of the Earth's geographic North Pole. The initial, N, represents the word north. The initial, S, represents the direction of the Earth's geographic South Pole. The initial, S, represents the word south. The initial, E, which represents the direction of the sunrise. The initial, E, represents the word east. East is the direction of Asia compared to Europe, hence the term Eastern music. The initial, W, which is the direction of the sunset. The initial, W, represents the word west. West is also the direction of Europe compared to Asia, hence the term Western music. First is silent, which is silence. We are beginning with a point that the other points are based off of, and that point represents 0, which is the computing function, off. 0 is a known point, and 0 represents nothing, which is no volume, which is 0 volume, and 0 volume is silence. In order to increase or decrease the pitch, the hertz Hz of a tone must be produced at some volume, and this will result in the tone being soft or loud, which is why volume is listed before the pitch. So, after silent, which is off, there is first soft, which is a form of the computing function, on. Both soft and loud are on, so there is only on and off, so only 4 basic directions of music if you consider off to be a point and not a line or course on which something is moving or is aimed to move, or along which something is pointing or facing. I am teaching 5 basic directions because once on there are 2 basic directions, which are lines or courses on which something is moving or is aimed to move, or along which something is pointing or facing. In that spectrum, the 2 courses on which something is moving or is aimed to move, or along which something is pointing or facing, are softer and louder. Soft means quiet, meaning of low volume. 2. Soft, and after soft there is loud. 3. Loud. The basic directions of music are a code, which are instructions that tells a machine to perform a particular operation. Living organisms are machines. Silent, soft, and loud are the basic directions for and of volumes. Low and high are basic directions for pitches. Pitch and volume are distinct properties of sound, with pitch determined by a sound wave's frequency, how fast it vibrates, and volume determined by its amplitude, how much energy it contains. Volume. What is volume? What determines volume? What volume is? Volume is the loudness or softness of a sound. What determines the volume? The volume is determined by the amplitude of the sound wave, which relates to the energy of the wave. Amplitude is the maximum displacement or distance moved by a point on a vibrating body or wave from its equilibrium, or resting, position. An example of this would be the distance a speaker's diaphragm pushes or pulls. The concept of a diaphragm and a transducer will be described first before returning to the explanation of amplitude. A diaphragm is a transducer intended to interconvert mechanical vibrations to sounds, or vice versa. It is commonly constructed of a thin membrane or sheet of various materials, suspended at its edges. The varying air pressure of sound waves imparts mechanical vibrations to the diaphragm, which can then be converted to some other type of signal. Examples of this type of diaphragm are found in microphones, speakers, and the human eardrum. Conversely, a diaphragm vibrated by a source of energy beats against the air, creating sound waves. Examples of this type of diaphragm are loudspeaker cones and earphone diaphragms, and are found in air horns. A transducer is a device that usefully converts energy from one form to another. Usually, a transducer converts a signal in one form of energy to a signal in another. Transducers are often employed at the boundaries of automation, measurement, and control systems, where electrical signals are converted to and from other physical quantities: energy, force, torque, light, motion, position, etc. In the case of music speakers, the diaphragm is the transducer that converts electrical energy into sound waves by moving the air back and forth. The process of converting one form of energy to another is known as transduction. A sound wave can be mathematically represented by the oscillations of a circle. Animation of a piston system. Piston, a sliding piece moved by or moving against fluid pressure, which usually consists of a short cylindrical body fitting within a cylindrical chamber or vessel along which it moves back and forth. A piston is a sliding valve moving in a cylinder in a brass instrument, which when depressed by a finger knob serves to lower the instrument's pitch. Pitch. What is pitch? What determines pitch? What pitch is? Pitch is the highness or lowness of a sound. What determines the pitch? The pitch is the frequency of the sound wave, which is the number of vibrations per second. How pitch changes. A higher frequency, faster vibrations, results in a higher pitch. This occurs when we tighten our vocal cords. A lower frequency, slower vibrations, results in a lower pitch. This occurs when we relax our vocal cords. Silent is an instruction and therefore a direction which indicates to cease making sound, which is to cease making volume, which is to not make sound, and means to have no intensity or pressure of volume, which is no sound, which is the absence of sound. Soft is also a direction because it is an indication, and an indication is a precept, which is a perception, being that the word perception contains the word precept. It is therefore an instruction to make gentle intensity volume, which is soft sound or quiet sound. Loud is the final of the three basic directions for and of volumes. Loud is the contrasting end of the spectrum that is silent, soft, and loud. The loudness is the attribute of a sound that determines the magnitude of the auditory sensation produced, and that primarily depends on the amplitude of the sound wave involved. Loudness can be silent, which is no volume; soft is gentle intensity, which is a little or small volume; loud is a forceful intensity, which is a lot of volume. The basic directions for pitches are low and high. Pitch means to cause to be at a particular level or of a particular quality. Pitch is to set in a particular musical key. The basic directions for pitches are low and high. Pitch is to cause to be set at a particular angle, slope. The basic directions for pitches are low and high. Pitch is a baseball so thrown. Pitch is the delivery of a baseball by a pitcher to a batter. Pitch is to throw sense 1A, to propel through the air by a forward motion of the hand and arm. Pitch is to throw sense 1B, to propel through the air in any manner. Pitch is to throw sense 6, which is to indulge in, give way to. Throw is to pitch sense 6B, which is to play as a pitcher. Pitcher is one that pitches. Pitcher is at times specifically the player who pitches in a game of baseball. A pitcher is also a container for holding and pouring liquids that usually has a lip or spout and a handle, and specifically with a scale to measure the liquids, as the word pitch means the relative level, intensity, or extent of some quality or state, which would be the volume of the liquid in the pitcher. A pitch is a slope and also the degree of slope. Rake. A rake is an implement equipped with projecting prongs to gather material or for loosening or smoothing the surface of the ground on a pitcher. There may be measurement lines that form an image similar to the prongs of a rake turned on its side so that the smaller prongs are horizontal to the long beam connecting the prongs or in radiating from a point or pole. The rake would therefore be the pitch, which means the relative level, intensity, or extent of some quality or state, which would be the volume of the liquid in the pitcher. A rake is an implement like a rake, which would be the lines used to measure the liquid content of the pitcher. The basic directions for pitches are low and high. 4. Low and 5. High along with 1. Silent, 2. Soft, and 3. Loud form the 5 basic directions of music. 5 basic directions of music are also comparable in significance to the miracle of the octave. In music, an octave, Latin, octavus, eighth, or perfect octave, sometimes called the diapason, is an interval which is the distance between two notes, one note having twice the frequency of vibration of the other. Frequency is the number of occurrences of a repeating event per unit of time. The octave relationship is a natural phenomenon that has been referred to as the basic miracle of music, the use of which is common in most musical systems. How to recognize the notes that represent tones. A whole note has one part. Part 1 is a point. The point is indicated by encircling the point with an oval which is slightly rotated counterclockwise. A half note has two parts. Part 1 is a point. The point is indicated by encircling the point with an oval which is slightly rotated counterclockwise. Part 2, a stem. That stem is either attached to the left of the oval and goes down, or the stem is attached to the right of the oval and goes up. A quarter note has 3 parts. Part 1 is a point. The point is indicated by encircling the point with an oval which is slightly rotated counterclockwise. Part 2, a stem. That stem is either attached to the left of the oval and goes down, or the stem is attached to the right of the oval and goes up. Part 3, the oval is filled in. An eighth note has 4 parts. Part 1 is a point. The point is indicated by encircling the point with an oval which is slightly rotated counterclockwise. Part 2, a stem. That stem is either attached to the left of the oval and goes down, or the stem is attached to the right of the oval and goes up. Part 3, the oval is filled in. And Part 4, which is one flag. That one flag which should be blowing with the wind from left to right. Or Part 4 can be one thick line, which are bars also called beams attached on the left of the first stem from left to right and connecting through the stems to the last stem on the right and not past the last stem to the right. The reason why the flag blows from left to right is the wind that fills the sails of the musical ship that we are sailing and blow from left to right, which is the direction the music is read. Sailing terms are used in music, for example, portamento, which is to travel between ports, in one sense seaports for sailing ships. And another sense is to travel between ports, in the sense that each tone is a port as in a destination. A 16th note has 5 parts. Part 1 is a point. The point is indicated by encircling the point with an oval which is slightly rotated counterclockwise. Part 2, a stem. That stem is either attached to the left of the oval and goes down, or the stem is attached to the right of the oval and goes up. Part 3, the oval is filled in. Part 4 is split into 2 parts, 4 and 5, which are 2 flags, each flag is a part. Together one flag is part 4 and the other flag is part 5. The flag should be blowing with the wind from left to right. Or 2 thick lines which are parts 4 and 5, each thick line is a part. Together one of the thick lines is part 4 and the other thick line is part 5, which are bars also called beams attached on the left of the first stem from left to right and connecting through the stems to the last stem on the right and not past the last stem to the right. Underneath equals 60 are the 2 number 4s. The numbers 4 and 4 are the time signature. For fourths is pronounced 4/4 time means there are 4 beats and the quarter notes 1/4 gets the beat. 2/2 is pronounced 2/2 time means there are 2 beats and the half notes 1/2 gets the beat. 3/4 is pronounced 3/4 time means there are 3 beats the quarter notes 1/4 gets the beat. June 8th is pronounced 6/8 time means there are 6 beats and the 8th note 1/8 gets the beat. December 8th is pronounced 12/8 time means there are 12 beats and the 8th note 1/8 gets the beat. In tuning and acoustics, a beat is an interference pattern between two sounds of slightly different frequencies, perceived as a periodic variation in volume, the rate of which is the difference of the two frequencies. Volume is the loudness, which the degree of loudness or the intensity of a sound. With tuning instruments that can produce sustained tones, beats can be readily recognized. Tuning two tones to a unison will present a peculiar effect. When the two tones are close in pitch but not identical, the difference in frequency generates the beating. The volume varies as in a tremolo as the sounds alternately interfere constructively and destructively. As the two tones gradually approach unison, the beating slows down and may become so slow as to be imperceptible. As the two tones get farther apart, their beat frequency starts to approach the range of human pitch perception, the beating starts to sound like a note, and a combination tone is produced. Frequency is the number of occurrences of a repeating event per unit of time. Frequency is an important parameter used in science and engineering to specify the rate of oscillatory and vibratory phenomena, such as mechanical vibrations, audio signals, sound, radio waves, and light. Frequency is the number of occurrences of a repeating event per unit of time. The interval of time between events is called the period. The conventional symbol for frequency is F or nu, the Greek letter nu, is also used. The interval of time between events is called the period. It is the reciprocal of the frequency. For example, if a heart beats at a frequency of 120 times per minute, 2 Hz, its period is 1/2 of a second. The period t is the time taken to complete one cycle of an oscillation or rotation. The frequency and the period are related by the equation. Special definitions of frequency are used in certain contexts, such as the angular frequency and rotational or cyclical properties, when the rate of angular progress is measured. Spatial frequency is defined for properties that vary or occur repeatedly in geometry or space. The unit of measurement of frequency in the International System of Units, SI, is the Hertz, having the symbol Hertz. For cyclical phenomena such as oscillations, waves, or for examples of simple harmonic motion, the term frequency is defined as the number of cycles or repetitions per unit of time. For cyclical phenomena such as oscillations, waves, or for examples of simple harmonic motion, the term frequency is defined as the number of cycles or repetitions per unit of time. The conventional symbol for frequency is F or nu, the Greek letter nu, is also used. The period t is the time taken to complete one cycle of an oscillation or rotation. The frequency and the period are related by the equation. In the equation, F equals 1 over cap T. Frequency equals 1 over capital T. T equals period. F equals 1 over cap T. The term temporal frequency is used to emphasize that the frequency is characterized by the number of occurrences of a repeating event per unit time. The International System of Units, SI, unit of frequency is the Hertz, named after the German physicist Heinrich Hertz by the International Electrotechnical Commission in 1930. It was adopted by the CGPM, Conference Générale des Poids Measures, in 1960, officially replacing the previous name, cycle per second, CPS. The SI unit for the period, as for all measurements of time, is the second. A traditional unit of frequency used with rotating mechanical devices, or it is termed rotational frequency, is revolution per minute, abbreviated R/min or RPM. 60 RPM is equivalent to 1 Hz. In tuning and acoustics, a beat is an interference pattern between two sounds of slightly different frequencies, perceived as a periodic variation in volume, the rate of which is the difference of the two frequencies. Volume is the loudness, which the degree of loudness or the intensity of a sound. Interference is a phenomenon in which two coherent waves are combined by adding their intensities or displacements with due consideration for their phase difference. The resultant wave may have greater amplitude, constructive interference, or lower amplitude, destructive interference, if the two waves are in phase or out of phase, respectively. Interference effects can be observed with all types of waves, for example, light, radio, acoustic, surface water waves, gravity waves, or matter waves, as well as in loudspeakers as electrical waves. With tuning instruments that can produce sustained tones, beats can be readily recognized. Tuning two tones to a unison will present a peculiar effect. When the two tones are close in pitch but not identical, the difference in frequency generates the beating. The volume varies as in a tremolo as the sounds alternately interfere constructively and destructively. As the two tones gradually approach unison, the beating slows down and may become so slow as to be imperceptible. As the two tones get farther apart, their beat frequency starts to approach the range of human pitch perception, the beating starts to sound like a note, and a combination tone is produced.